Hey everyone, welcome to the Bits of Chris Show. This is episode 27, day 27 of my 30-day challenge where I'll podcast every day for 30 days in a row. 3 more days, I can't believe it. Today's episode, how to take smart notes to build your second brain. Now, for the longest time, I was a Google Docs guy. I would just make new documents, copy and paste the URL to link documents together. Things were organized by folder, and it worked pretty good for a while. But things started to break. It started to get difficult to find what I was looking for. I started to get bogged down in the process. Things didn't feel like they were in the right place a lot of times. And it became painful to continue to explore new topics, explore new projects. It felt like my note-taking system was slowing me down. So if there's one thing I did in the past couple of years that's been the most impactful thing to my life, it was studying note-taking systems for at least a month. October 23, I went on a deep dive and I found a whole bunch of great stuff. I looked at this book, How to Take Smart Notes, another book called Second Brain, and in that doing some general research on a style of note-taking called the Zettelkasten system. And it's been awesome. Taking notes now just feels so effortless, so much more fun. The possibilities feel endless. It's just like a much more liberating approach to taking notes, and I absolutely love it. And I think everyone should do it. That's what I wanted to talk today about, because I just think this has been so powerful, not only for me at work, but also for being able to write and, make this podcast, but then also just new ideas and things that I want to do and learning more about myself. It's been just so powerful to have it all in one place in my Zettelkasten system. So imagine if you had a living repository of knowledge that would get exponentially more powerful as it grows. Imagine knowing exactly what you're going to do when you leave a project, when you have a project you put on hold for a second. Imagine coming back and knowing exactly what the next steps are. That's what I've been able to achieve with my combination of How to Take Smart Notes, Zettelkasten, Second Brain, and a little bit of the Getting Things Done method. So How to Take Smart Notes is a book that describes the Zettelkasten system. Zettelkasten is a German word that roughly translates to slipbox. It's a concept that the German sociologist Nicholas Luhmann popularized. Nicholas Luhmann, who published more than 70 books and over 400 articles throughout his career, credits his ability for being this productive to the slipbox, which was a system of note-taking he invented and is being studied now. And at a high level, the Zettelkasten system is basically 2 types of notes. And what Luhmann did was put these on index cards. So it's like a single idea on an index card. You have reference notes, which are things that you learned from like a book, a podcast, a blog, and you would take an idea and rewrite it into your own words. And then you have permanent notes, which are a single idea that could come from a reference note or a combination of notes or an idea you had. And then after you write one of these notes, you try to consider all the other notes in your Zettelkasten and figure out where this relates. What does it link to? Can I say, am I saying this in another way somewhere else? Is this related to any ideas? And then you would link it. Now, Luhmann had a very complicated cataloging system, which fortunately today we don't need to do. We can really just link documents together, and there's some tools that make it super easy to do that. I'm a big fan of a tool called Obsidian, but really the tools don't matter. And Second Brain is a book by Tiago Forte, and a very catchy term, I think, that encapsulates the point of taking notes, because you're externalizing what's in your head so you can see it, so you can move pieces around, so you can connect the dots. Stuff that your brain is limited with how much you can keep in its working memory at a single point in time. So by putting things down on paper, you're able to see more and move pieces around. And in his system, there's a lot of overlap with How to Take Smart Notes, but obviously unique twists as well. He requires a period of you capture notes, and then you want a period of distilling these notes into something that's most interesting to you. So kind of like putting it in your own words. So he has a way of organizing this called the POWER method, which is to organize your notes by a project or by an area, which is an area is basically a never-ending project, like being a parent or your finances. Resources, which is very similar to the reference in Zettelkasten, and archives, which is just stuff you're not working anymore. And then so what I've done is, or what I found work for me rather, is merging the best ideas from both of these worlds and sprinkling in a little bit of the getting things done task management method. So what I do is I have 3 main folders in my Zettelkasten. I have an inbox, which is where I put any notes that I capture for later process. And when you capture, you want to make it easy. So capturing on my phone is one tap. I have a shortcut, tap. It takes a daily note that goes right into the inbox, and that's where I just write down notes, anything that comes into my mind. So this way I have it. And then later, when I'm at my computer, I'll sit down and I'll process that inbox, the notes in the inbox, and I'll put things where they belong. I'll try to link them. I'll look at what's already in my Zettelkasten, and I'll try to make use of the notes I've captured. The second folder I have is the notes folder, which is where the permanent notes go. You should default to putting things in this permanent notes folder rather than other folders. The beauty of the Zettelkasten is it's very bottom up. You don't want to get bogged down in organization too much. And then I have the reference folder, which is where notes from things I read are organized by medium. And I'll try to link those out to new ideas or pull out a permanent note from those when I'm processing them. But now taking this a step further and integrating some of the power method a bit, I've also added a projects folder where I will have notes and one central note specifically for every big project that is referred to as a map of content or MOC. So I have a single MOC note for every big project I'm doing. And on that note, I'll link out to, relevant notes, relevant journals I might have taken, and I'll put a list of tasks. And this is where getting things done comes in, is on these project notes. I have very clearly a next actions list, which is usually 1 or 2 things. And then I'll have what I call the later list, which is everything else. So this way, if I have an idea of something I want to explore, I'll just dump it there. I might never get to it, but I'll just dump it there. And then every so often, I might even go in and purge and take some stuff off these to-do lists and just dump them somewhere else in basically like a never get to list. And by getting it out of my head, I'm freeing myself up to go work on other things, but I know it's captured and it's written down. So we have the project folder. I also have a journals folder, which is really just a unorganized collection of journals to myself, more like brain dumps. And what I'll do is after I have one of these brain dump sessions, I'll reread and try to summarize it and extract things that I think are useful to either a permanent note or to one of these task lists. And so that's roughly the structure. I have the inbox, the notes, the references, the journals, and the projects folder. And then to merge in the task management bit is when I have the next actions list and the later list. So it's always clear what the next action for a project is. And then I always have a place to just capture anything I think I could do or a good idea onto this later list. And now, this might be hard to visualize listening to this, but I think don't get overwhelmed by what I'm describing. The core principles are that this system works for you. So if you read either of these books, or if you start looking up the Zettelkasten system, don't stress the details. The most important thing is that you have a space to capture notes, and then you have a space to think and reflect and try to link things together. Nothing else really matters. The goal of this is to have a system that helps your learning and ability to produce knowledge. So that means you have a place to create and store your notes. You're translating them into your own words, and you have a place to connect them and view them together. Really just adopt the system to suit you. And I think these are the big components. It's that you have a capture process. You're not worried about where things are going. You're translating things into your own words, and then you're linking things together. And in the beginning, it might feel kind of silly to do this because it's going to be empty. And you might think, I have all these old notes. How do I backport them? I would say, don't worry about that. Just go for it. Just start using the system today from the beginning. I'll put some links on this post of how I got started and the resources I talk about, because it's been so helpful. It's been so powerful that I just can't recommend it enough. It does take some work. And you probably won't notice anything in that first month of doing it. So figure this is like a week or 2 adjustment, and then maybe a couple of weeks of just getting used to it before you really start to see anything. but it's just like the potential upside and the speed with which you can do things is unbelievable. I absolutely love it. So to recap, you want to make capturing notes easy. So establish some sort of lightweight process for capturing your notes, something that's like one tap away on your phone. Capture notes to an inbox where you can later process them on some regular cadence. When you're processing them, you're trying to translate things into your own words, and you're sorting things either by, are they a reference note directly from a source, or is this an idea that could be combined with other ideas? And then you want to try to link the notes you add to existing notes in your Zettelkasten or in your notebook. To manage tasks, I like to have two lists. One that's a next actions, where it's very clear the next step or two, and then a later list, which is the someday maybe list of whatever good ideas I think I have around a project or things I might want to do that aren't as important or urgent. And I organize these lists by project in a specific project note. And then in your note-taking app of choice, or just in your Zettelkasten, you really need 3 folders. In your inbox folder, where things go to then be processed later, the notes folder for permanent notes, and the reference notes folder. Optionally, you can add a projects and journals folder like I do, whatever works for you. And then the most important thing, I think, is to just get started, knowing that you can continually adjust this process going forward. And it's going to feel a little slow and awkward in the beginning, but I think things like this are really worth investing in. So don't be afraid to try it. Keep what's working, try to keep it simple. Because remember, the point of all this is to be able to capture ideas and learn new things with very little effort. And then also to know what tasks are next. So have that organization so you can free up your mind to dump things to a later list and know exactly what to do next. And with that, it's episode 27. I hope you found this useful. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.